Welcome back to Moving Cardboard. Today I'm going to be going over the next scenario of the Hobbit saga, which is the Lonely Mountain. So this is the fifth scenario total out of 6 from the 2 boxes put together. So this one comes with the heels of flies and spiders, and this covers the part in the book where they are approaching the Lonely Mountain, finding this little secret entrance, and Bilbo's going in to burgle some stuff. So this scenario has burgle mechanics, which is similar to the riddle mechanic, very similar, but not quite as hard to pull off. So in this video, I'm not going to be playing it, I'm just going to be going over it, and I'm going to go over it in detail actually, like every stage, kind of discuss the different rules and the strategy, and then I'll give a little overview of the deck I'm going to play with. And these cats just love it when I make videos lately. They're in the background. They might make some noise. Okay, so let's get a little bit closer here. So the quest has 4 stages. The thing about this one, the trick is that you aren't going to progress through all 4. You win on stage 3. You want to avoid stage 4. So the other trick or interesting thing is that in stage 1B, notice there's no quest or progress required, and you skip the quest phase. So you get 1 free turn, essentially, before you actually have to do your questing and all that other stuff. Now, the reason why is probably just because it's, well, two things. You're sneaking up, kind of sneaking up, getting closer. You also, in the staging area, you've got Smog the Golden. There are 2 versions of Smog in this. And you have the Lonely Mountain. Now, the Lonely Mountain has 12 threat, and we'll get into that in a second. And Smog has X. His threat is equal to the number of non-burglar characters committed to the quest. So anyone other than Bilbo who goes in will increase his threat by 1. If it's Bilbo alone, his threat is nothing because he's asleep. But dwarves are noisy. Smog will be a little more alert in that case. The other part of the setup here, coming back to Lonely Mountain, is it has -2 threat for each treasure stacked underneath it. So we have these treasure cards introduced in the second box. We've got the Thror's hunting bow and his battle axe, the Arkenstone mithril shirt, and the golden cup. So you take these and you shuffle them up, and these are the things you're trying to burgle, and you put them under the Lonely Mountain. So at the start of the game, the threat of the Lonely Mountain is actually 10, not 12. As you burgle, the more burgling you do, the more threatening the Lonely Mountain becomes. While it's in play, it does have, you can spend 2 Baggins resources to basically help you with your burgle attempt. So how do you burgle? You burgle when actually, the only time you're going to burgle is in stage 2. So after you go through this, you skip the quest phase and you go to stage 2. And stage 2 is going to tell you, again, that there's no quest progress required. However, after you quest successfully, you put a progress token on Smog. And Smog does say, when he has 6 tokens, after the 6th token is put on him, you go to stage 4A. Stage 4A represents him waking up, basically represents the part where he comes out and attacks them, and so that wakes him up. He's been more alert because you're going back and forth so much. So after you quest successfully, you get 1 progress on Smog. Then you make a burgle attempt, and if you're successful, you get to take a treasure card. And then also, if you're successful, you may advance to stage 3, which is where you win. That's how you win. You got to be on stage 3. If you burgle unsuccessfully, he makes an attack on you, on the first player, who's going to be me. So I don't want to fail. So making a burgle attempt involves the encounter deck. You begin discarding cards until you find one that says burgle, and you just do what it says. So this one says, the first player shuffles his deck and reveals the top card. He may discard 2 cards from from his hand and match the revealed card's sphere. So this Lonely Mountain lets you spend 2 Baggins resource to take that revealed card into your hand and then do the next card. So there's 2 circumstances where you want to do that. One, you don't have, in this case, 2 cards that match that card's sphere, so you don't want to fail, so you spend the 2, take it in hand, go to the next one. Maybe you'll be able to match the next card with 2 cards of the same sphere. Or whatever it would have to be. Yeah, it would still have to be 2 cards that match the sphere. You're still going to have to meet this condition, but it's letting you take your card into hand. Or you might do it just because you want the card draw. I mean, you spend 2 Baggins resources to get an extra card, that's fine. So that works just fine. Now, the advance to stage 3 is a may, you don't have to. So you could stay on stage 2 to continue to try to quest successfully and to continue to burgle. But again, the more you burgle, the harder it is to successfully quest because this threat will go up. Also, the more you successfully quest, the more the smog's going to wake up. There's a couple of cards, actually, I just happen to have drawn this one. This location, when it leaves play as an explored location, will let you take a progress off of smog, or you can draw 2 cards, your choice. But if you don't see any of these, you basically have a max 6 attempts, then he comes out and you have to fight him and all this stuff. Quest through stage 4, which has 7 progress. If you get through that, then you go back to stage 2 and you can try again and keep going. But that can really grind the game out a long time. Now, if you do get to stage 3, also another thing changes. In stage 3, you remove Smog the Golden and you get Smog the Magnificent. He also comes out in stage 4. This is the version of Smog for stage 4. He is engaged with you, but he doesn't leave the staging area. If you go to stage 4, you only bring out Smog the Magnificent. But if you quested successfully and you've gone to stage 3, you also put out a Bare Patch. You can meet this condition, which is quest successfully, and make a burgle attempt. The burgle attempt will allow you, instead of getting a treasure from the Lonely Mountain, it will be attach this to Smog, which gives him -3 to his defense, making him easier to kill. Generally, so the way you win, it's a little more difficult to fight it out with him. It's a little easier to do it this way. So this requires 20. I cannot defeat the stage while Smog the Magnificent is in play. I discard Smog the Magnificent if progress tokens on this card are greater than his remaining hit points. So he has 20 hit points starting off. So if I can quest for a whole lot when I get to stage 3, like 20, if I could put 21 tokens on this, then I would discard him and I would win. So it's kind of like Flies and Spiders and a lot of other games, actually, that you play in this. You get to that last stage and you want to set yourself up to be able to just immediately win on the last stage, like the next quest phase is the next, just go for it. And just survive 1 attack from him. So that is the structure and the flow of the scenario. In terms of the encounter deck, the encounter deck is mostly treacheries and locations. The treacheries involve they kind of mimic things Smog is doing, like casting a spell on people. And some of those are nasty. Some of them they attack. He just makes an attack, an extra free attack. So that's mainly what it is. And there's a lot of locations. And there are a couple of weak enemies that are condition attachments or that have surge and will actually, there's some birds that will actually make it, these guys. What they do is when a location is revealed from the encounter deck, you put a progress token on Smog. So these croaking crows are kind of waking Smog up. So you want to avoid these guys if you can. They have surge also. And the locations vary. Some of them are the one I just showed you is actually kind of good to get because you can draw cards. And some of them are nasty and you don't want them. So that's that. Okay, so my deck strategy / heroes and everything. The heroes, obviously, I have Bilbo. I've stuck with Nori and Ori. Access to Spirit. card draw. I want lots of cards because I need cards in my hand to help ensure passing those burglar tests. And finally, I've got Dane. Went back to him just because I want a lot of willpower. I want tons of willpower. Okay, so here's how I'm going to go about things. So for card draw, I've got Legacy of Durin again, a couple of copies of this, and I've got We Are Not Idle, which isn't really card draw, it's more just like a replacing itself effect, and that gives me some resources if needed. And I've also put in the good old dwarf. Well, I've got Dayron's Runes, 3 copies of Dayron's Runes, so that's going to draw me more cards as well. And then I've got Biffer to draw cards. So those are my main card draw. To go along with We Are Not Idle, talking about resources, I put in just 1 copy of Steward of Gondor. The reason why is because I feel that I have enough card draw that I should be able to get it. Also, if I happen to discard it for whatever reason, because of burgling, or maybe I get some other really great card and throw it in the discard pile, I've got Erebor Hammersmith to get any attachment back out. The other attachment, I've only got 1 other attachment in the deck, and it's just like Flies and Spiders. Similar kind of vibe going. I've got Protector of Lorien, and you know what I'm going to do with that, right? I'm going to put that on Bilbo and power him up, and then use the lucky number just to get some, to help boost up, so basically double or more my overall will for questing when he throws that onto a dwarf. Another thing that's going to help me with questing, and especially in that final stage then, is going to be Untroubled by Darkness, giving all dwarves +1 will. And if I manage to have an underground location as the active location, they will all get +2 will. There is 1 underground location in the deck. There's only 3 copies, so I can't really bank on that, but it's a nice to have happen if I can have it happen. And with resources, so the Steward of Gondor, to go back to that a little bit, that's going to go on Ori, because I'm going to run Longbeard Mapmaker. That's another way to get a lot of will, to sink all those resources into him. So I've got redundant ways to overwhelm my will. I've got all the card draw to power Protector, which will go to this lucky number, and then I've got the dwarf global buff and the map maker, so that should give me plus Dane. That should help me out with all that. And okay, so for getting allies out, I want lots of dwarves obviously if I'm going to quest. So I've got Sigil Miner, just a cheap dwarf. That's really what he's doing there for me. I've got Dwalin, who should be cheap when we get there. I've got obviously the brothers Feely and Keely, and their sidekick, a very good tail. I don't necessarily want to use a very good tail often, maybe just once to get things moving, but I do want to play plenty of dwarves from hand. I have to play them from hand in order to, like for instance, Biffer has to be played from hand to draw cards, and going back to Legacy of Durin, they have to be played from hand. So I want to make sure I'm drawing plenty of cards. I don't want to just throw everybody out with a very good tail. I've also got, there's some nasty attachments, like the spell that the dragon can cast on you. So I have 3 copies of Miner, the Iron Hills, to get rid of those attachments. And I've got Glorn to move resources around. He's pretty useful. And finally, I think that's my last hero other than Gandalf, Hinnemarth Riversong. He's just too good, and I want to know what's coming up because, again, there's some really nasty treacheries that I'm not a fan of. It will really hurt me. a lot. And finally, I've got Test of Will, 3 of, because of those disgusting treacheries. Treacheries are the most common card type in this encounter deck. They overwhelm everything else. And I've got some Dwarven Tombs to give redundancy with Test of Will, and you know, that could just, if one of these dwarves gets thrown down and I want to get them back, but mainly it's just for Test of Will, and that is my deck. So again, the strategy is going to be to manage my quest, kind of slow quest, you know, as though we're playing Conflict at Carrick or whatever, and get set up, make a burgle attempt once I'm set up, and then in my very first quest phase of stage 3, the hope is to just quest for 30, 40, 50, a lot. Just turn everybody sideways, a ton of dwarves, Untroubled by Darkness, lucky number, and push it over the top that way. So we'll see how it goes. Now, one thing, it's just as an end note here, since I'm one-handed solo, let's talk about the treasures. So the treasures that I'm going to put underneath the Lonely Mountain. You have to win the scenario in order to take any of the treasures with you, and you have to burgle. So whatever you successfully pull out of Lonely Mountain, you can put those in your deck for the Battle of 5 Armies. So here's the issue. I play one-handed solo, which, as you know, renders some parts of this game meaningless or unusable completely. Like there are lots of cards that are either weak or don't do anything. They have no effect. So it's really like I don't have those cards. My card pool as a one-handed solo player is smaller than if I were playing two-handed or playing with other people. Keywords like Sentinel and Ranged mean absolutely nothing. They will never have any relevance unless maybe down the road there's something that would make them relevant. But since ranged attack is defined as an attack on an enemy engaged with another player, then I will never make a ranged attack. That being said, Thror's Hunting Bow, its relevance is only for ranged. It gives the hero ranged, and when that hero makes a ranged attack, they get +2 attack. So having range doesn't mean anything, and I will never make a ranged attack. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. What I'm going to do is when I build the scenario, I'm going to put the hunting bow on the bottom, and then I'll shuffle the others, because otherwise it's like I make a burgle attempt and get nothing for it. There's not even victory points for it or anything. So I don't want to just waste that attempt, because I want to honor what I actually get instead. Otherwise, the other solution is to just give myself all the cards for Battle of 5 Armies. But I'm gonna do it this way. I'm going to actually use just what I get from the Lonely Mountain, with the caveat I'm going to put that one on the bottom, shuffle everything else, and then if I decide to go for all of them, that's on me. And I'll just shuffle, and then okay, Golden Cup was at the top there, but whatever the top happens to be. So all the other ones they're not equally good, but at least they can be used. This one just cannot even be used. It's just completely dead. It's like it doesn't exist. For a one-handed solo player, this card effectively doesn't exist. So that's going to be that. So I'll post it on Wednesday, the playthrough. We'll just see how it goes. And then after that, there is, Battle of Lake Town coming up. It's going to be hard. All right. Thanks, guys.